Assalamu alaikum viewers and welcome back to Prime Live. You know, it is a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we have the opportunity to feature and also give you a bit of insight on some incredible people who are making waves in the tech space. And today we are super excited to welcome Ma'sooda Varachia, who is the CEO of Raven Technologies. Now, we're super excited to delve into her journey in the tech space, as well as highlighting incredible women in STEM industry. So join us as we delve into her journey, as well as developing her very own company. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us on Prime Live.
Wa alaikum salam. It's a pleasure to be here today.
I mean, we love seeing women in the tech space, and we are seeing a lot of women up and coming in the industry and in the space. So super exciting to have you on our tech segment today. We usually have a gentleman, so I love the difference that we have today, having you in studio with us. Now, you have founded Raven Technologies. Can you talk to us a little bit more about your journey to developing your own company? And can you talk to us more about some of the services that you offer as well? I know that you are involved in a variety of things, such as agriculture to mining to healthcare. So please tell us more.
Okay, so where do I start? I think it's such a privilege to be a woman in the tech space. As you know, it's a very male-dominated field of expertise. But I actually started off in psychology. And my idea behind that was always wanting to help people. And I thought that maybe that was the only route to go. Until I ended up doing an internship for a telecommunications company, and I actually realized that I have some form of passion for technology. And throughout my journey, I then interned at Nokia for a while, and I was very fortunate enough to have some great mentors there, and that's where they introduced me to 4IR, 5G networks, beginning of scratch coding, like learning all those things, and it was so new to me because I'd never experienced that before. And that's where the journey kind of took off. And along the way, I had the pleasure of meeting more mentors that would only help open doors and create that opportunity, but obviously it also entailed a lot of hard work. And again, I say this is such a male-dominated space that you've obviously got to be very firm and you've got to stand your ground, but at the same time, you're not going to change who you are to kind of fit in. So you've got to create your own narrative. And I had the privilege of one day sitting in my chairman's office, and then we were brainstorming what this company is going to be. And we spoke about IoT solutions. I don't know if you're familiar with IoT. And we spoke about basic concepts and how we want to impact people. And I think it's great wanting to impact industries. But I think for us, what was so important was, how do we take this back to a grassroots level? How do we impact underserved communities in a positive way through technology? And that's how Raven Technologies was actually born. And I think a space that's so close to our hearts is the agri space. So we started a beekeeping initiative, and that just took off because what we were able to do was integrate IoT technology into our beehives that helped us monitor humidity, temperature, GPS tracking. And what this did was it helped us increase productivity when it came to our beekeepers. It gave them back their time. It was also cost effective. But at the same time, what it did for us was we were able to track the beehives. So in South Africa, we've got this huge problem where beehives are stolen. And I know to many people, they'll be like, it's a beehive, man. How much of worth can the bees have? But truth be told, we've spoken to farmers that have lost 60,000 Rand plus in yield. So what this has actually done is it's allowed us to minimize theft of beehives in the country.
I love that you took the time to highlight an issue that a lot of South Africans are possibly not aware of that does exist. And even from a climate perspective, bees are so incredibly important for the environment and are essential to the agriculture space. And as living, breathing human beings, we are very heavily dependent on our agriculture space to thrive and be thriving and continue to thrive. And I love the way you've been able to use tech in a way that is benefiting and solving problems, because that's exactly what we want to use the tech space for, is to solve the problems that do exist in South Africa. But can you talk to us a bit more about some of the transformative projects and initiatives that Raven Technologies aims to address, or maybe even to attack, so to say, in South Africa as well?
Okay, so I think one of our most important initiatives was actually the beekeeping program. And through our partnership with Mine Workers Development Agency, what we were able to do is we have distributed over 7,000 beehives across the country. So we have a footprint in every province, and that means that we have over 700 beekeepers or beneficiaries. But when I say this, we didn't go to existing beekeepers. We went to people that were unemployed within these rural communities, and we upskill them to become beekeepers. I think it's very easy when you say, you know what, I'm going to give someone this item and then, I've done my bit for society. But through our partnership, what we were able to do was we were able to give them the beehives. We were able to provide them with training. And I mean, this included proper facilitation as well as mentorship. So you weren't just leaving people destitute, you were giving them the knowledge, you were giving them the skills in order to run these programs. We also provided them with equipment. So that is your basic beekeeping tools as well as PPE. So the last thing you want is to have your beekeepers stung or not fully equipped when they're going into their apiaries. So basically what we did was we fully equipped them. And I think what's so great about our partnership is there's also a marketing element to it. So you get to the point where these beekeepers are doing well and they now they've harvested their honey, but what do they do with it? So then we've gone and we've provided them with offtake agreements where we actually buy the honey from them at 85 Rand a kilo, and that's a lot more than what your wholesalers are charging them. I mean, a lot of them want to cut them down to margin, and at the end of the day, what we want to do is create livelihoods. We want to create that sustainability in these underserved communities, because that's the kind of impact we want to drive. And you're not going to do that when you're cutting people, down to size in that way. So I think it's been such an amazing journey in trying to do that. At the same time, what it's also done for some of our beneficiaries is if they've decided not to sell their honey, they've created their own brands. They've supplied local spas and supermarkets, and that is now their livelihood. And I think how the IoT also helps is each beehive has its integrated IoT device. So your beekeepers need to go and supervise the beehive maybe once in 2 weeks. But what we're also saying is this allows you to monitor your beehive remotely, and those real-time data analytics are constantly pulling through to our app. So that's another thing that we've done. It's not just going into thin air. With a partnering company, we were able to create our own Beezy app, which is on Google Apps as well as the App Store on the iStore App Store. And what that's done is it's allowed for remote monitoring. Like I said, it monitors temperature, humidity, it can also monitor rainfall and the GPS tracking. But all of this stuff pulls through to our app, which users can have on their phones, they can have on an iPad. And like I'm saying, you could be a farmer sitting in the Bahamas having a great drink and having a good time. And you are still able to monitor what is happening with your beehives. And what happens is, even if a beehive is knocked over, I mean, we have a constant issue with honey badgers, for example. They absolutely love causing chaos and mischief. But the minute a hive is knocked over, what the sensor in the hive does is it immediately sends an alert to your mobile or your iPad, and it says that this has been knocked over. There's some sort of movement. So immediately you are on high alert to prevent theft or to prevent damage. So I think the IoT integration has made such a big difference.
It's incredible to see the technology and the innovation that is being created in all these different spheres, in different industries, and the benefit it, of course, has to the beekeepers, to the companies that have these hives that they have. And I can also imagine this kind of technology continuing to transform and assisting other businesses as well can absolutely see the forward vision for something like this. And I think what you've created is absolutely incredible to see the impact that you've had in communities. And these are the kind of entrepreneurs that we love to highlight on the show, not just because you're creating innovative technology, but you're giving back to communities. We know that unemployment is huge in South Africa, and we need more businesses like yourself that are giving back to communities and giving people an opportunity for skills development, as well as to possibly also earn a sustainable income for themselves and their families as well. But like you mentioned in the beginning of the interview, this space is very male dominated and still very much is. And I think you're one of the first or one of the few females in the tech space that we have had the privilege of having on the show. But that's exactly why we have you here. We want our young women who are watching, our little ones out there, to look at you and see what is possible for them in terms of where they can fit in and the spaces they can make for themselves in the tech space, in the innovation that they get to be part of. What would be your advice to any young girl out there who might be watching now, looking at you thinking, I want to be there one day, I perhaps don't know how to get there, and perhaps also maybe feel a bit intimidated by the difficulty of entering a space that is male dominated? But in order to address the issue of this space being male dominated, we need those young girls to come in and make spaces for themselves in this industry. What would be your words of wisdom to them?
So I would say being a woman in tech is not easy, but it is a very wholesome feeling, especially when you know that you are making a change. I know that we've also discussed that it's very male dominated, but if I can say something, my mentors were all male. And also in the same industry. And I was fortunate enough to have that upliftment and that support from them to say, you need to learn to stand your ground. I listened to a very interesting podcast where I heard one of the ladies in the mining industry, which is also very heavily male dominated, say something that really resonated with me. And she said to me, she said in this podcast that at the end of the day, we always try as women to fit in. So we always want to be part of the boys. So whether it's smoking a cigarette or whether it's having a drink or whether, you dress a certain way, we kind of want to shrink ourselves and dim our sparkle to fit in with our male counterparts. And she said, that's actually the wrong thing to do. Be a girly girl. And I was so impressed with that because at the end of the day, what she's saying is you've got to walk into the right rooms and have the right attitude and believe that, I am enough and I can do this. And I think if you love something and if you are passionate about it to the extent where you're not willing to take the backlash, or if you do take it, you can take it with a smile and still stand your ground and say, no, I definitely do belong here. I think that's very important. And I think to all the young ladies in STEM or STEAM, I would just say keep shattering those glass ceilings and keep pushing boundaries, because at the end of the day, it's your perseverance that's going to take you to the next level. And I think it's also so difficult because at the end of the day, nobody wants to be that girl pushing paper because you just belong in that space where you're doing admin or the truth is, I think it all comes down to your attitude. And if you're willing to say, I got this, I want this, you will keep pushing and you will keep working towards it. So I would definitely say that if this is what you want to do, then don't worry about what anyone else has to say. There's exponential growth in this industry, and there's enough space, not just for men, but for women as well. And I think over time, I've had such a privilege of meeting amazing women in tech, women that are doing a lot of coding and robotics, that are doing automation and machine learning, and that are bloggers. And for me, that's so motivating because the more women I see in this industry, I realize that I'm not the first, I'm not the last, and I'm going to be there to support every young girl that wants to go and follow her dream in tech.
I love those words of wisdom that you shared. And more importantly, I love that you said that women in tech don't have to look a certain way or mold themselves to fit into any kind of environment. Because I think we all have these preconceived notions of what we're supposed to look like, how we're supposed to behave when we are in these male dominated spaces. And you can still rock your pair of high heels and walk into those boardrooms and walk into those spaces and be 100% yourself. And I think it's important what you mentioned is that young girls need to create those spaces for themselves because they absolutely do belong there. Now, you are a multiple business owner and a successful one at that. Can you talk to us about some of the other businesses that you have as well and how you manage to juggle it all?
Okay, so I think that's a very interesting question. So I have a passion for baking, compliments to my mom, because from a young age, she's got me into the habit of cooking and baking. And I think my interest just fell more on the baking side. And in 2018, she and I successfully started our own little business called What the Biscuit. And, you know, in the beginning, it was slow and it was tough. Because I think starting a business from home and then not having the exposure, and this was before I even started working. So not having all of that knowledge and that marketing expertise was a bit of a struggle. But I mean, it was such a blessing in the long run because it gained momentum. I mean, we learned new things along the way. We got to build our clientele, which was incredible. And then at some point, you know, things just got really busy. And what I was able to do was pass that off to my mom. And I mean, she runs the operation side of things and she does a great job to the point where she's kind of taken over the whole business. So I just have my finger in the pie every once in a while, but I mean, she runs things smoothly. And that's one of the businesses that we started together. Another organization that we have is called the Laser Lab. We are based in Aldo. And you know, it's so strange when you talk about businesses, you think that, you know, these are brainstormed ideas and you have to be sitting in a boardroom, but you won't believe that this was actually a carpool conversation where my partner and I were sitting in the car and we're joking and we're singing. And this came up as a topic and we were like, you know what, why don't we do something like this? Because I know as an individual that's been for laser treatment, it's not always the most cost-effective exercise to do. And we were like, okay, let's come up with a concept that is cost-effective for men and women, you know, that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but, you know, people can still afford this. And that's how that idea was birthed. And again, on the marketing side of things, it was slow. We didn't have enough clientele. But again, I say with experience, some brainstorming, we were able to build that and turn it into a viable business. So that's one of the many businesses that I have. But I think also something that I'd like to mention as a side hustle, and you would know this quite well, is that I'm also a professional model. And a lot of people would just think that, you know, this is just fun. You stand in front of a camera and it's a shoot here and a shoot there. But what it's also done is it's a confidence builder. It's helped me network. It's helped me meet different people of different races, genders, religions. And in my field of expertise, being in the tech space and meeting different people from all walks of life, I would say that has done wonders for my career as well, because it's taught me how to interact better with people, but it's also given me a platform to decide what kind of a person, what kind of a woman I want to be, what kind of messaging I want to send out. So I think that's quite important. There is another passion project close to my heart, and it hasn't fully taken off yet, and it's very much related to Raven Technologies. So over the course of a year, we've been trying to pilot this project in creating our own honey brand. So obviously, we've got beneficiaries from all over the country. So what we've been doing is we've been sourcing honey from the different provinces, from the different beekeepers. And I mean, that's all types of flavors. You know, sometimes you get lychee, sometimes it's hazelnut, you know. And what it's helped us do is in this year, we've helped create a different brand of honey. And we've labeled it Habibi, emphasis on the bee. And we spent a year doing a pilot project, and last year in December, we were finally able to get the right bottle, the right branding, the right kind of labels, and we actually did our first batch of corporate gifts. Just to say thank you to all the funders that were able to make this dream come true. But that is another stream of our business now, where we are able to say that we have our own brand of honey.
I absolutely love that. And I love that you are so multifaceted. And we talk about having multiple streams of income to build that sense of generational wealth. And I think you're the prime example of just going ahead with that idea that you have at the back of your mind, the one that you keep putting away and you keep putting away. It actually can turn into a wonderful business idea. And with persistence and time, it can absolutely be successful. So thank you for sharing your many hustles with us. And I think we can take a lot of inspiration from your journey and your confidence within yourself. Your confidence to believe in your ideas and to put them forward. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back from becoming entrepreneurs, starting their own businesses and taking charge of their careers and their financial futures, is that courage to say, what, this is a cool idea. I believe in it. And if I persist and if I'm strong and if I'm firm that it's going to take off and it's going to do well, it will definitely get there.
100%.
Yeah. But Ma'sooda, in closing, how can our viewers at home get in touch with you if there's anyone who is in business, who is, listening to your business ideas, listening to your companies, and light bulbs are absolutely flashing and they would love to get involved or collaborate or contact you? How can they get in touch?
So I would definitely say that they can do it through our website, ussraven.net, or you can follow us on Instagram, pop us a message, and someone from our team will definitely be in touch with you.
Ma'sooda, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been I'm leaving this conversation feeling incredibly inspired by the journey you've undertaken, as well as, your ability to just commit to yourself and be so brave in the various different business areas and sectors that you've involved yourself in. But your self-confidence and your belief in your own abilities is what absolutely has gotten you to this point. So thank you for paving the way for young women in tech and for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much, Nazia. It's been a pleasure being here, and with like-minded women like you, I think just women empowering women, that's all that we need right now.
Oh, thank you. I love to hear that. But viewers at home, that was Ma'sooda Varachia. She is absolutely multi-talented and multifaceted, absolutely talented in the tech space, in the kitchen, as well as in the beehives. But please do reach out to her on her social media platforms if you would like to collaborate, if you would like to get more information. And if there are any young women out there who also want to reach out to her for some further advice, please do also reach out to her on her social media platforms. But do keep engaged with us. If you have any further questions for Ma'sooda, please do also send them through on our social media platforms. But on that note, it is time for us to head over to an ad break, and we'll come right back.